GT Outpost. I really like these bikes. Pretty much any GT from this era, if it's chromoly, it'll ride really nicely. They have really playful geometry, they have a short rear end, so they're not really great for carrying a big load in the back with panniers, because you can get a bit of heel strike. But if you load the front of them and keep that in mind, then you'll end up with a really fun commuter bike, which is pretty much the goal for this one. So it's going to be 1x9, and then it's going to have a front rack and pit bike handlebars. So these are a Renthal grip that match the decals really nicely. These are free pedals that he got from a friend, which is really cool. They're a really nice MKS pedal. Narrow wide chainring, that's just some cheap chainring, but they do the job nicely. A dual 9-speed shifter, which is actually the dual release lever, so it can be actuated both ways for the shift up. So you can push it forward or pull it back. Both of these will clear the 32 tooth cassette. I think I'm going to go with this because it's in nice condition. This is an 8-speed LX, it'll do 9-speed just fine. This one, the jockey wheels are quite worn out. And then brake levers, all of these are for cantilever brakes, I just don't know which one that he wants, so I'm going to ask Henry and throw them out. And this is the original seat. It's actually in quite nice condition. There's one small tear on it, or two small tears. Vittoria Mezcal tyres. And then this is a Parallax rear hub, I believe. It's an 8-speed, so that'll take the 9-speed cassette nicely. This front wheel is off a Rocky Mountain. It has sealed bearings. It's probably some generic Joytech or Shimano hub or something. So the seat post was pretty dirty, as you can see from the first little clip there. So I used a Scotch pad, just some WD-40 to clean it up. It helps getting it in and out of the seat tube there nice and smoothly. A bit of grease and then I can throw it in the stand. The headset cups were out because it was initially going to get a respray, but those plans changed, so the frame was it wasn't prepped for painting, but I had taken out the headset cups and taped up the brake bosses and little things like that. So this quill stem converter, it's pretty long, as you can see there in the clamp area, especially for a BMX stem, so it looks pretty goofy here. I ended up cutting it down quite a bit, so I still needed it enough for the stem to sit up high enough to get out of the way from the front brake cable, because I didn't have an extra long drop hanger for the stem. But just to keep in mind that this look here is temporary. It would have been fine. It increased flex, which is unnecessary, and yeah, it just looked a little bit goofy. So the levers that we went with, I think they were off a Cannondale. I could be wrong because I had a couple of sets that were pretty much identical to this, so I don't know for sure. These Renthal grips went on pretty nicely. The bar ends didn't quite, because they're made for a different diameter handlebar. That's about the only downside to using pit bike bars, is that sometimes bar ends and that sort of stuff don't fit in them too nicely. So before I bolted the chainring down, I gave it a test fit. So I installed the bottom bracket and the drive side crank arm, just to make sure that I was putting the chainring on the right position on the cranks. So normally on the middle position works best for 1x drivetrain setups. So this is the point where I was looking at to line up the chain line. You want the chainring to be in line with about the middle of the cassette. So in setting up a 1x drivetrain conversion, I like to put an inner cable in the rear derailleur. That way I can hold it in one gear and make sure that the chain and the derailleur move just a little bit. That way I know that when the chain bounces around, that the derailleur spring is going to take up that chain slack. And then I do the reverse, so put it in the opposite gear. So once you've made sure that it works in the highest and lowest gear, you can put the chain together and keep going on. Then once the chain's on, I normally give it a thumb through the gears, just to make sure that it's going through all nicely. From here, I tend to adjust the beam limit as well, make sure that it's shifting into that lowest gear nice and smoothly. So it started off quite rough, because the pulley was smashing into that lowest gear, but I got it shifting smoothly. I was having one of those moments where I couldn't find the hole. Nice. Now the next cable, brake cable, so it comes outer to the stop here, then it goes bare inner cable all the way back. It goes through this little, it's like a tube guide, and then it comes through here as well. So here is where you'd put like a length of outer cable to make it slick around the seat tube. Some GTs actually had seat stay U-brakes, and they would cross over the straddle cable sort of around the seat tube. So you can put that in there, and it'll give the inner cable a nicer surface than the bare metal. It's not really a permanent solution because it will wear down, but I haven't found anything that fits nicely that gives us a nice slick surface compared to that. And then this part, sometimes they get like a bit crushed and pinched. You can open them up. I used the end of a punch and opened it up a little bit to make sure that the outer cable goes through. Yeah, like that. So for going around the seat tube, you don't want to use a linear cable. So you want to use a coil wound outer cable. It bends a lot nicer. So you will have to fiddle with the cable length that goes around the seat tube there, just to see what works out best. So I check the cable feel in steps, then I know if I've created friction, I know which section it'll be in. So positioning on this is pretty crucial. You don't want it to be too high up, too far down, because it'll create this angle and just unnecessary stuff. Yeah. So as you can see, as you pull the cable, it flexes in, so you don't want that. So it's most likely too low. So I'll shift it up. Feels better. So I might go up a little bit more. I'll have to move that sheath as well. That feels good to me there. So now that I've got the position and the length above, I'm going to start working on this part at the back here, the tail end. So there are quite a few GT frames out there that have this rear brake routing. It's probably the only thing that I dislike about the design of the GT frames, other than that, the lack of rear space because of the short chainstays. They're quite a strong frame. They're really playful because of their geometry, although they do tend to run a little bit small, so just keep that in mind when you're buying one. But you certainly won't be disappointed with how a GT rides. They're a really playful and nimble bike, and they're certainly strong with their triple triangle design. I reckon they look really cool. Most people agree, and that's reflected in their appreciation online. So I hope you liked the video. I'm really happy with this build. It's nice and fun to ride, so thanks for checking it out. The next video that I have coming up is an old Bridgestone. So I picked the bike up for a mate who lives down in Wellington, which is about an 8-hour drive. So I'm lucky enough that he actually let me ride it and make a video about it. So that'll be coming up in the next couple of days, I think. I've just got to throw a little bit more of the footage together. And yeah, thanks. Bye.